Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another Walking Dead discussion. Now, in order to help me talk about this particular subject, I am once again joined by Dimzy from Dimzy's Domain. Dimzy, why don't you say hello to everyone listening now?
I'm not Dimzy, I'm Lucille. What's good? You're right.
I brought in my own personal Lucille to help us talk about The Walking Dead. Anyway, guys, so we are talking about Season 8 of The Walking Dead, and particularly just kind of a relaxed discussion. What do we need to see from this particular series going into Season 8 that's going to make it better than Season 7? Probably even one of the best ones that we've seen, because let me just be fairly honest here. I can't imagine anyone listening to this video, I guess, who really likes the show as much as I do or has followed it for as long as I have, and I'm sure Dimzy has as well. Look, we can all be honest. The showrunners for this particular season gave us 16 episodes of basic filler. They left us on a huge cliffhanger in Season 6. They came back with a vengeance in the first episode, and then they just decided to say fuck it, and they just went their jolly way and all relaxed and did nothing really important for 16 episodes, an entire season's worth of content. And particularly, like, if you watch the first episode of the season and then the last, you don't miss a whole lot. You don't miss, like, nothing really kind of came together. Like, there's just so much that was wrong with this season in terms of pacing, in terms of character, in terms of everything involved, that it just didn't feel like the show that we fell in love with. And it's obvious, like, why the ratings dropped as bad as they did. It just wasn't really enjoyable. It wasn't must-watch television. A couple of episodes here and there were really, really good, but as a whole, it just didn't really work out. So, I mean, Dimzy, I want you and I discuss this. I feel like the first thing that needs to change, and I think this is a huge, huge thing that needs to change. This show needs to stop at this point getting into a situation where they're giving entire episodes, these bottle episodes, to particular characters. And I don't care how awesome, and I actually wanted this as a fan. I wanted this for the longest time, back when we were in, like, Season 3 going into, like, the first part of Season 4 and everything. I just wanted them to focus on, like, one character per episode, because you just want to see an entire episode dedicated to Daryl or Carol or Rick or Maggie or any of the other awesome characters that we had. And I gotta admit, just as, like, a fan, as a creative force in my own right, like, anything that I want to happen, I was completely wrong about that. This show is so boring when you don't focus on the whole.
But you have to remember this, that the people that they focused on this series were, I forgot her name. I just was not...
Tara.
I didn't care. I did not care about her at all. That's the thing. I don't think that's the main problem. I just think that they need to kind of streamline the pacing as well, because sometimes they're so slow. And we spoke about this off, and you did mention this earlier, the fact that this season has, from such a high bar, from such a very good introduction, it has lowered the bar, and the ratings have, understandably plummeted to what we would expect. So, I think they should lower the character-centric episodes, but make them to important, interesting people. Keep it exclusively to maybe Carol, Daryl, Rick, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And okay, maybe Maggie as well, but I think that they shouldn't do any more character-centric episodes in the near future, because everyone has come back. So essentially, we have them all back together. And with that being said, that's one of the things where especially myself, I'm really excited for the next season, because they're finally back together. Because for the longest time, they were separated, or there wasn't contact between X, Y, and Z. Finally, they're back together, and this is when Walking Dead, in my opinion, does perform the best. They're able to pull off these character moments and these interactions between other people when they are focused on as a group. And I guess that's more evidence and support to stop the character-centric episodes. And honestly, the main issue for me is stop making certain characters behave like such a bitch. Morgan, oh my god, Morgan, I swear down. You know, do you remember the time when we were like, oh my god, Morgan might be a regular once again in The Walking Dead? Honestly, make him a part-timer again, because he is so annoying, and it comes to a point now where we're just thinking, come on man, just understand the context. And hopefully he's back to this somewhat insane he does what needs to be done mode, so there's none of that to hold it back down. And that's just one of the main things going forward in the next season. I don't want there to be any lingering things which are holding back other characters. I know that kind of makes up for a good story, but a lot of the times they overuse it and it becomes cliche and it becomes a bit silly and contrived, and it makes the story essentially a little bit more predictable. When Sasha died, spoilers, when Sasha did die, of course there was talk about her signing on to another TV show, so she was essentially going to leave anyway. But the amount of focus they put onto her, even from the show, if you're someone who doesn't keep up with the spoilers or the talk of the cast outside the show, it was very obvious. Okay, she's dying. She's definitely dying. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. And at the same time, no way Carl's dying. We haven't really even seen him this episode. So there are tropes where you just know what's going to happen. You know, there's very few surprises when the way they drag on and focus on something. It's not even remotely trying to be clever.
Were there any...
or maybe it is, but it's just they're trying to be too artistic, and it's like, I don't necessarily. It's not really getting to me in the same way, because it might be emotional, but it's not surprising.
I guess this is the testament of the season itself, but I can't think of any game-changing moments which were really shocking or surprising in this season, apart from the opener. I can't think of anything. Can you?
Well, the thing is, and that's why I say it's filler. That's like a filler season. It's not that there was any game-changing moments that's going to shape the show and, I guess, put us in a situation that we didn't know we were actually going towards. I guess you could say the war did. But in terms of character moments, there are a couple. The character arcs for Maggie, I think, was fantastic this season. I wanted more of that for the most part. Her rise into being a leader and being away from Rick and kind of coming into her own was really awesome. The emotional, the kind of reintroduction between Carol and Daryl is awesome.
Reintroduction, yes, but the roller coaster, supposed roller coaster, the journey of Carol was a bit silly. Why is she feeling so emotional? I was like, what's shut up and hurry up and become a badass.
It took a whole season. And look, I just wanted to go back on something that you were saying before, and how you were saying how, well, now that they're all together again, we're going to get away from this. We're gonna stop kind of dividing characters and making them do their own thing, and now they're all going to be together plotting this war situation. I want that to be true too. Like I've said in the beginning of this video, I want them to be together, because as much as I wanted to in the past, and as much as I will admit that I was completely wrong, it just doesn't work this way unless the story demands it. Unless, when the prison got destroyed and everyone got separated, that was a really natural feeling story. And then they all kind of went to Terminus and they got back together at the beginning of season 5, and you thought, okay, well, this is like a very natural conclusion. And if you knew about the comics, you knew that they were probably going to be going to Alexandria, maybe, that's what we thought at the time. Of course, that ended up being true. And they didn't necessarily do that either. I mean, they had episodes dedicated to Carol and Daryl basically going else to find Beth. We had like 2 episodes dedicated to Beth. I mean, why are they doing that? Why do they insist on telling these stories that you're just sitting there going, what happened? And this is becoming a really annoying trend in the entire series, is they focus on Rick and the group as a whole doing one thing or another for like about 2 or 3 episodes at the start of the season, and then they kind of go off and do something completely different, or not even remotely connected to that particular story. For season 4, it was basically we're dealing with the plague, or we're dealing with this fever that we're dealing with. And then at the same time, they gave us 2 episodes with the governor. Really boring, in my opinion. Season 5.
I really did like the governor one.
No, really boring.
It was good.
season 5, we're dealing with this stuff. We're all gonna go to Washington D.C. and cure this thing and blah blah blah. And then Daryl and Carol basically went away, and you have the Beth episodes. The Beth episodes are really boring. The Daryl and Carol episodes are pretty good. You have Noah and everything, and then it kind of gets back on track in the next next 8 episodes in the season. And for season 6, you were kind of going on, maybe there's this dynamic between Rick taking over Alexandria and all that tension there, while at the same time they took like an hour and a half episode to basically show you what Morgan's been up to this entire time. And it's just, to me, it's just a weird situation where they decide to break up the pace, and I feel like a lot of that is because of the episode count, which gets me to my biggest point. And I know you and I made a video about this, so I don't necessarily want to hark on this way too much, but they need to reduce the episode count. It's crazy. I know they want to reintroduce and reinvent it every 8 episodes, but let's just be honest, this is not working to the point where we are just sitting around with too many filler episodes in a show that really should be fast-paced and really go get him. And
that's the thing.
So
I think that a lot of the time when they suddenly do those breaks in the story narrative to shift focus onto someone else, it seems like the producers, the writers are thinking to themselves, okay, the viewers are going to be too exhausted, let's slow it down. We don't want it to be slowed down. Ramp up the pace, keep it as fast and as intense as possible, and that's the way forward. And yeah, I agree, cut down the episode number and just get on with it. Honestly, just get on with it, because there's far too many forgettable moments, especially in the last season. I forgot half of it. I can't even remember who died. Okay, Sasha died, but it was just come on.
I know who theoretically died. The big deaths for the most part. And then I guess this is a big issue. This is kind of a big issue for me, and I guess this is really open for interpretation. I think there's part of the fan base who agrees and part of them who really disagree. But while the season, especially season 6 ending and then season 7 opening, I thought Negan was such an awesome, probably an in-game type of villain, someone so intimidating and so, I guess, ruthless in his own right. And then we watched the entire season. And I gotta admit, just for me, Negan isn't interesting to me anymore. In fact, he might be even less interesting than the governor, and I thought after a while the governor got really boring and way too dramatic for what he was. And the only reason I say this is they overused Negan. I mean, the whole season hung its hat on his freaking... Yeah, the whole season hung its hat on his freaking Lucille bat. I mean, he just did not go away, and he kept doing the same thing over and over again. He's really a one-trick pony of a character. All he does is sit around, lean back and talk about, oh, this, that, or the other, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, just going to make jokes and everything and then get really intimidating and maybe kill somebody, but never really killing anyone. It's like, oh my God, I've seen this like 4 or 5 times already. Can we just get to the point? The one thing they really need to do, and I know this is going to be impossible with the story that they set up, but if the season 7 was going to be this, the best thing they really should have done is they should have, I guess in my opinion, they should have had Negan show up, and then we could have then have Negan show up, and then basically just kind of have him kill Glenn and have him kill Abraham, and then basically just to disappear the entire season and become this kind of ghost, and kind of kept on with I'm Negan, I'm Negan, and have us wonder like, wait, was that really Negan? Like, or is any of this like, who is Negan, or is Negan even a person? Even though you just saw this guy kill like 2 of the main characters in the entire show, they hung their hat on it too much, and it just became so obnoxious.
Yeah, because one thing they should have done, in my opinion, is the fact that you know, as you said, we were so overexposed to Negan where I know how he's going to act. You know, when he says, "You're a badass," he's going to thrust his hips as he does that. He's going to lean back. You're a badass. Yeah, they should have just relied on his number 2, the guy that was from GTA. Just rely on him.
Yeah.
And that's just the way they should move forward.
Yeah. I mean, I realize that they're probably going to just continue to use him, but I hope they do learn their lesson that we got way too much Negan. I feel like they really did too much with him in this particular season. Reduce the episode count and stop giving us single individual character episodes. If you're going to keep the episodes 16, please make sure you have enough story for 16 and you're not just stretching out a story, because they can sit there and go, the showrunners can sit there and go, as much as they want, it's like we get these emotional payoffs, but we earn them by doing this, that, or the other and taking our time to get there. It's true. But at the point where you get to the situation where Shiva is basically jumping in and killing Negan's guy and starting the war at that point, as much as you get to that point, it's more so out of exhaustion and just kind of you're just kind of happy that you're over and that there's something even remotely satisfying, and it's not uplifting, it's not even remotely saddening or anything else. It's just finally we're at a point where there's something interesting happening, and I could have, like, it was at least building to that particular point, and I just don't think that makes for good television. And when you start looking at how many people dropped off this season and how big their lows got, their final was at a 5-year low in terms of viewership rating, at least live viewership, although people are changing their viewing habits, obviously, but to me that's a big issue and one of the reasons why this show really needs to reconsider what it is.
I agree. I completely agree.
But anyway, guys, y'all have any other thoughts of what they can do in season 8 in order to make it better? Please make sure to go check that out. Basically, share your opinions in the comment section below. Like I always say, please make sure to go check out Dimzy. His link will be in the description below. Makes awesome content, not necessarily this stuff, but if you do like Dragon Ball content, Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Digimon stuff, he does that stuff. So anyway, guys, we're going to catch y'all in the next video.
Bye.